please put your hands together for Mr. First Ronzio.
So, he told you the vacation story. Yeah. He's told so many people that story. And you know Mike, he's a promoter. So when I was doing a lot of consulting, he would tell everyone that story, and then I'd start to work with people, and they'd be really disappointed when I didn't buy them a vacation. But I was happy to do it for Mike. I'm excited to be here and to share the 100 hacks to improve your fitness studio. Now, of course, we only have a few minutes left, 28 minutes to be exact. So I can't share 100 hacks, but I've boiled it down into some ideas that I think you can take away and maybe tie together all the topics and start executing on your business, which is what GSD is all about. Right, Mike? Yes. Cool, let's do it. So, does everybody still have your pens and pencils and paper? Great. Well, if I say nothing valuable, I want to say this, which is these 4 books have been instrumental in me learning how to tie systems together. I don't need to tell you why systems are important. You've seen the podcasts, you've read the books, you've seen all the speakers before. But if you build systems in your company, you can do 2 things. You can simplify or you can scale. Or you can do both. Maybe you don't want to work as much, you just want a simple business, that's what systems will do. Maybe you want to expand to 1,000 locations, that's what systems will do. Maybe you want both. But if you read these books, these are kind of like a roadmap, and they've been one that I've followed. So The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, Traction by Gino Wickman, Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, and Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. So great books, read those. But before I scaled up, before I did anything in business, I had a TV show. I was 14 years old, and this is me with a friend of mine in our little cable access TV show. And we would interview people around Boston where I grew up. The people that built the biggest snowman, the cheerleading team. There it is. The cheerleading team. That was my favorite interview. One day, we were at my high school, my field house, and we were interviewing the cheerleading coach and the team because they were going to the state championship. And so the administrators of the school said, we need someone to film this, and you guys have cameras. Would you mind filming a bunch of cheerleaders all day, all weekend? Sure, that sounds great. So we formed a company around it, and it was called Event Video Company. And that is the business that I grew up in, EVC, just like NBC, but you probably haven't heard of it yet. What we did was simple. We would show up to events, we would record those events. There it is. We'd record the events, we'd take orders for those events, and we'd ship those videos out from those events. So we did sporting events all over the country, and it started right here at this high school where my friend had a camera and I had a table and those old slips where you could take credit cards. And that was how this business started. So as we grew the business, we got bigger cameras, which that has about as much power as your iPhone does now. I set up this editing bay in my dorm room at school, which looked like some kind of weird, creepy, suspicious surveillance center when we had parties. And then I would drive home on the weekends and ship all these DVDs all over the world from my parents' house. And this little assembly line process I built with my brother and his 8th grade friends. Where's Julian? I don't know what grade you're in, but just like that. So in 2009, we packed up everything we had. We had an office in Boston. We left that office there, and I took all my stuff and my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and we moved out to Arizona. And when we did that, when we moved away from the business, 2,300 miles away from the business, that is when the business exploded. So I had this office, I had 4 employees in Boston, and I ended up with about 300 camera operators all over the country. And we set up 2 more offices. We were doing events like all of the US figure skating events up until the Olympics. We did the halftime show of the NFL Pro Bowl for 4 years. We did Pop Warner events. We did USA Swimming, International Championships, all these events that would go on around the country when they needed consistent video coverage. And we were the company that would pull together those crews and the logistics to make it happen. So in 2013, I sold that business. And the next thing I wanted to do was create systems for other businesses. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk to you guys about today. So I wanted to be like, the guys on Shark Tank or The Profit or something and go in and help all these businesses one-on-one. And as I look back to my video experience and what I had done, I realized that the whole thing was based on building scalable systems. We had some really unique experience in technology, going from VHS tapes through DVDs and video CDs and HD DVDs and Blu-ray and USB sticks and live streaming. The technology was always changing. And we got really adept with tech and tools and tricks and hacks and all this stuff. And that's what Mike wants me to talk to you about today. So in working with so many companies, the one formula that I got, the rule that I put together is this three-part thing. And this is what I want to talk to you about. So first step is do it. If you can do something consistently, the same way every time, and you can document it clearly, which means you can write it down or communicate how to do it, then you can delegate it confidently. So simple 3 steps, but all scalability in business, I feel, comes down to this principle that you do something consistently, you document it clearly, and then you can delegate it confidently. And a lot of businesses will mess this up. You'll delegate something before you fully understand it and say, you figure it out. Or you'll write something down before you're doing it the same way every time, and then it's totally out of date by next week. So you start with learning how to do it consistently, then you document it, then you delegate it, you'll watch your business grow. So we'll come back to that. Now, doing the work in your business comes down to having the right tools, to be as efficient as you can, to do things consistently the same way, the same time, the same way every time. And if you've got the right tools, you can pull that off. So a few years ago, I made a book. It's called 100 Hacks to Improve Your Business. And like we talked about, there's no way we can squeeze in 100 here, but I've broken this down into 10 different areas that we'll talk about how to get more efficient and find some quick wins in your business that you can leave here and execute with. So anybody can download that. Does anybody want a physical copy? This book is gold. Literally, it's yellow. All right. If you get a paper cut, call Redirect Health. Okay, there's a few more. I'll hand them out later. Cool, so let's get to it. 100 hacks boiled down into 10. So the first step is how to be productive personally. So in working with so many companies, I saw that unproductive CEOs create unproductive businesses. And so if you can't be organized in your own personal productivity and how you get things done, then it's really hard to be an organized leader. So a couple lessons here and a couple tools. First tool is called SaneBox. What SaneBox does is it limits and filters your email that gets into your inbox. So it blocks out everything that would be like travel confirmations, receipts, newsletters, Mike's newsletters and my newsletters, but all of that stuff, it'll block it out so that you're only reading person-to-person communication. SaneBox is a really easy tool and it cuts down 80% of your email. You'll love it. The next tool on this list is called Boomerang. And the idea behind Boomerang, it works with Gmail, works with Outlook, is the idea of snoozing your email. Does anyone do this currently, today? A couple of you? Okay, so the idea of snoozing your email means that I send you an email, it hits your inbox right now. You see it, but you say, there's no way I'm going to take action on this right now. Maybe it's like Mike sends out a message, says the last possible time to buy a GSDCon ticket is Friday at 5 p.m. And you want to snooze that until Friday at 4 p.m. when you're actually going to make that decision because you're a procrastinator. So you use the snooze button to push that email back on your schedule so that you can come back to it intentionally. It's all about being more proactive with how you handle your communication. So think about how you can be proactive with your email by sending things away, boomeranging them to come back to you later. The next one is Todoist. This is what I use for my personal task list. And the lesson, the idea here, is that you need a place to dump everything. All those tasks that come into your mind when you're at line at Starbucks or when you're driving to the office in the morning, you need a place to dump those ideas, to dump those tasks and those thoughts. Todoist is the one that I recommend, and it's an easy place to capture your to-dos. So those are a few tips for personal productivity. Next one, simple communication. Does anyone use either of these tools? Awesome. Okay. So the lesson here with developing simple communication for your business is developing kind of a communication protocol for you and your employees. So Slack and Voxer to me are kind of like first line of defense tools where you can direct all of the conversation and set some expectations around when you'll get back to those people. So if you think of something and you type it on Slack, there's not an expectation they're instantly going to get back to you, but you know that that communication is there and they're probably going to get back to you pretty quick. If you send a message on Voxer, which is a kind of like a walkie-talkie service, you know someone's going to get it through that channel. And so these are two great work-specific channels that you can start to develop conversations with for your employees so that not everything is relying on email or phone or text, which crosses a lot over into your personal world. So I try to keep the communication with my employees in channels like this. And then if it's less, if it doesn't need as quick of attention, it goes to email. And if it needs quicker attention, it goes to text or phone. If someone's texting me and calling me, I know it better be urgent. And I've set that expectation. So that's a lot of people talk about, how do I get my people to stop texting me? Well, that's just give them somewhere else to put the conversation and reserve text for the most urgent stuff. Next one, easy applications. So Tom talked a lot about recruiting and hiring, and before him, Mike was talking about getting 500 and something resumes. So if you're getting to that scale where you're getting a lot of applications, you can be buried with applications through Craigslist and things like that. So the tools I recommend for this, one's called Breezy and one's called Workable, and they're both applicant tracking systems, ATS. What they do is they let you create a job description, create a job post, post it on all of the job boards, and then they collect all of those applications for you. They aggregate all those applications so you can move them through your hiring funnel from group interview to one-on-one interview to I made the offer to they accepted the offer, all the way through your hiring process. So make sure that you're collecting all of those applications in a systematic way and not just letting them hit your email. Number 4, automate your training. So you might recognize this logo from the opening. Full disclosure, this is my company. But Trainual is all about creating online training manuals. So I know a few in this room use it. Thank you very much. But what I want to impress on you is that training, I know you all have trainers, but training should just be organizing and centralizing what people need to know. Think about training as just organizing and centralizing what people need to know about how you do your business. And right now, if all that stuff lives in Google Docs or Word docs and Dropbox folders and email links and it's just kind of scattered, then you can't really expect people to know that stuff, to know where it is, to find it when they need it. You can't hold them accountable for having learned it because all you did was send them an email link. So if you want to systematize your training and put some accountability behind it, if you want to pull all your videos together and all of your calls or all of your documents and your forms and all that into one place, this is a great system, so check it out. Number 5, for fitness studios, of course, you have to manage memberships and point of sale. If you have inventory or things that you sell, you might need a system like this. A couple that I've recommended are Vagaro and MindBody. So you guys have probably used systems like this, but the idea with a membership system is that it's very different from any other industry that would have just a simple project management system to manage their clients or a CRM. This is kind of a replacement for that sort of CRM tool in that you can manage relationships and maybe even somehow in some of these do marketing, send emails, send reminders, send follow-ups in one central place as well as collect sales. And so make sure you have a membership system in place for your business. Number 6, appointments. Has anyone ever sent you a link and said, click to book an appointment with me? Is that familiar? So I use a tool called Calendly to manage that process. Now, depending on who you want to get a meeting with, maybe you don't want to send the email and say, hey, just book it yourself. You know, if they're really important, I've found that it can kind of come off like a little strange if you're like, hey, I'd love to meet with you. Please do all this work and use my link. And let me know if you have any trouble. You know? So what I like to do is I have one of these things in place. I'll put it in my footer of my signature. But then when I'm trying to arrange a meeting with someone, I'll first introduce it as, hey, I know your time is super valuable and I would love to meet with you. So if there are times or dates that work for you, then let me know and I'll move things around in my schedule because I want to meet with you. If it's easier, here's my link. It just positions it a little better. But what you'll see is that you get way less of that back and forth conversation, and it makes scheduling a lot easier. Another tool, just to put this out on your radar, that weird logo, x.ai is the company, and there's a few of these now. But what it is an automated, like an artificial intelligence email scheduler. Anybody heard of that before? What it is it's a machine learning kind of thing that will have a conversation with somebody on your behalf as if they're your assistant. But it's just technology reading the email and understanding what they say. So you can actually preset, like I really like to meet at this coffee shop, and if I use the ... do not schedule this meeting. And then when you send a meeting reminder to a meeting request to someone, you say, hey, let's grab coffee, ... You know that will never get scheduled. So that's a cool tool to just add some behind the scenes automation for your appointment scheduling. All right, number 7, managing your money. A couple hacks about managing your money. First, I've used a tool called Harvest for probably 10 years to track time and send invoices. And what I love about Harvest is anybody that's on a recurring invoice kind of thing, it'll automatically create that invoice and it'll automatically send it to them, and then it'll automatically remind them when they're late on that invoice every 7 days or whatever you set it for. So think about if you're sending invoices for any reason, try to automate your invoicing process. Next, company called Gusto. This is a great tool for automating your payroll. So you guys use this? So Gusto is, you can put payroll on autopilot. If you have people on salary that are paid the same amount every week or every 2 weeks, then you can have Gusto just process that payroll for you, and you don't even have to push a button. You just go in if you know anything's different. It can handle PTO requests if you have any of that, and it auto-files your quarterly taxes or sales tax or any of that, so amazing system. And then to tie it all together, you might have heard Christina from Accounting Pros talk yesterday. She recommends this tool Xero as the bookkeeping solution that might replace QuickBooks if you're more familiar with that. But that's just one place to get all the records for your business. All right, we're moving through them here. Number 8, organize your projects. So a couple systems that I love for organizing projects are first teamwork.com. Teamwork has a free version that you can start out with for just a few projects. Great way to manage an agenda for your team meetings. If you have leaders or something like that, you can have a project for your meeting agenda. It's also a great place to manage any other internal projects that you have going on at your location. So maybe you're planning a holiday party, or maybe you need to schedule taking people out to lunch or whatever, like some of the other speakers have talked about. Teamwork is a place to tie together all of the projects that you have to work on with other people. Trello is another system that you might be familiar with, that it's just cards on simple lists, really easy productivity tool, and Asana is just another option. I think Loud Rumor used Asana or had for a while. You still do. All right, outsource what's easy. So as you get more efficient in business, as you're using more tools to do what you're doing more consistently and more effectively, part of that might be relying on other people and other resources to do some of the work. So for me, I try to outsource as much as I possibly can that's outside my core responsibility of the business that we do. So for you, some things or tools that you might think about outsourcing. First, there's a tool called Fancy Hands that I tell everyone about, and in the past made all my clients get this. Fancy Hands is a non-dedicated virtual assistant service. What that means is that there's thousands of people that work for this company virtually, but all of your information is stored securely with the company in a way that they can only access what they need to access through the Fancy Hands system. So you put a request out, whether it's a text, a voice recording, or an email or anything like that, and one of those 5,000 people will pick up your request and they'll get it done for you. So this could be buying your mom a Mother's Day present. I've never done that. This could be sending a card to somebody. This could be looking up something on Amazon. This could be booking your flights. This could be finding the cheapest hotel in a city that you're going to travel to. So I recommend people even give this as a benefit to employees that you're paying salary. If you have administrative kind of employees and you want them to be more effective, more efficient, this starts at $29 a month. It's really a no-brainer, and it's an easy tool to help someone start to learn how to delegate. Some other tools, Upwork is a tool you can find virtual people to do any kind of project, whether it's your website work or your marketing help, copywriting, things like that. It's just a great place for some freelance resources. Design Pickle for graphic design. Accounting Pros, you heard yesterday, for your bookkeeping. Bench is another solution I used to use before Accounting Pros. But just think about what in your business can you outsource, because when you outsource to all of these different tools and you stitch them together, you'll find that you might spend a few $100s or a few $1,000s on something that would have taken $10,000 for a bunch of people to do it. And it's a really easy way to get more efficient, more profitable. And last, number 10, automate everything. In your business, what can you automate? A couple examples here. So there's one company called IFTTT, if this, then that. I hooked it up so that anytime we get a sale, anytime we get a new subscription on Trainual, if this, then that will make my Hue lights at my house blink green. And so in the office, I get like the room flashes green every time we have a sale.
Oh, no, great. Oh.
Oh no, why did you do that?
Here it comes, guys. No. I made it so that when I would come within a mile of my house, the air conditioning would turn on, the lights would turn on, the doors would unlock, all that stuff happens. And that's just by tying together systems that you say, if this happens in this system, then do this. So the possibilities are really endless. And Zapier is a more business version of that, where you can tie together different software tools. So for instance, we have a Zapier integration with Trainual. You could say, if I hire someone through my applicant tracking system and they make it all the way to hired, then automatically add them to Trainual and assign all their training materials to them. So they might be trained before they get to your door. So Zapier and if this and that really help you tie together different automations between your software that you might be doing manually today. All right, so with that, I want to come back to this central idea of do it, document it, delegate it. So most of this presentation was about how to do things consistently. And I want to end with this kind of thought, this idea. So many people tell you to work on your business and not in your business. And I've even heard it a couple times here. And I believe in that, but I think that you should work in your business until you're sick of working in your business. Because if you haven't figured out how to do it yet, you might enjoy figuring out how to do it. And there's so many different areas of your business that you can be in and figure out before you document and delegate them to someone else. So don't think that there's all this pressure on you to get out of your business and stop 100% working in the day-to-day, because that's not realistic for most people. Even when I moved clear across the country, I didn't get out of everything. I didn't stop working in the business entirely. I was still very deep in the business, but I just stopped going to events. I stopped doing the camera. So maybe for you, it's you want to figure out, how do we do training, and how do I get someone to replace me on 3 days of the schedule? Or how do I do the scheduling, and then how do I get an assistant or someone administrative to help start to take calls so I don't have to do that thing anymore? So as you're trying to get out of your business, you want to do things and be in your business for as long as you want to be in your business, until you drive home one day and you start to think, this just feels like a job. I don't want to do this part of the business anymore. And then you figure out how to document it, you figure out how to delegate it, and give it to someone else. So that's the process. Learn to do things, use tools to make yourself as efficient, as profitable, as effective as you possibly can. And then for every little piece of your business, after you figure it out and you feel you've got a good handle on it, write it down. Take the time to actually say, here's what it looks like when it's done right. Here's the expectation that I have for you as an employee that I can then point back to later and say, you did it wrong because I showed you how to do it right. Not, you did it wrong because I thought you knew what you were doing. Write it down, give it to somebody, right? And then you can delegate it and you can confidently grow and scale your business. Thank you guys so much. Follow me on Instagram.